Yes, we all know him from his years at Duke, but he's a Southern California basketball legend who, for Oak Ridge High, once took on Carver High for all of us to watch back in the day. Jay Bilas back here on the Rich Eisen Show from the Worldwide Leader in Sports. How are you, Jay?
I'm great, Rich, and I hope when Eric Musselman comes on, he's not on Zoom because I think he's got a penchant for taking his shirt off.
What's up with that?
I'm not sure your listener/viewers are prepared for that. It's something you cannot unsee.
Well, I saw that yesterday, and I do intend to ask him about that. But if I was 58 and had zero body fat, I'd be rocking that too. You know what I'm saying? I'd just be on a table. But this is usually a shirts on situation here on the Rich Eisen Show. Shirts on.
Yeah, thankfully. I still think it should be some sort of federal, perhaps state law that people over 50 should not be allowed to take their shirts off in public.
Even on a beach, Jay? I mean, how far do we go here since you're the legal expert? I mean, I don't know how enforceable such a thing is, Jay.
Oh, it's enforceable. It's enforceable. I don't, a beach may be a different deal because people are probably prepared to see the elderly, not fully clothed. But, look, I think celebrating wins is important. You don't want winning to be a relief.
Yes.
But it was a relief when Eric put his shirt back on.
I got to be honest, too, Jay. You know what this is? This is the offshoot of coaches not having to put on a suit and tie anymore, It's such a rarity. Now you just got a golf shirt on. If he's suited and booted, we're not doing that. You're not seeing that. It's so rare. You see that. I mean, that's part of the reason why I root for UCLA. Is Coach Cronin still rocks? He's still rocking like he's in Boardwalk Empire. It looks great to me.
Yeah, he looks like a defense attorney in Southern California. That he's gonna step up to the to the lectern and make a great sort of bond hearing argument for one of his clients that's clad in orange. That would be a great like TV show.
He's got that
mix.
He's got that.
Call it the mix.
Yes, he's got that lean and Avenatti look to him, Jay. He's got that Murder One sort of look to him. Back in the day. Remember that show?
It'd be perfect.
Remember that?
Yeah,
okay.
Of course I do.
Course
it'd be perfect. And he's like, oh God, what was that show that was on Amazon?
Oh boy.
The Goliath.
Ah, yes.
He would be perfect for Goliath.
Yeah, look at us. Oh man! All right, let's stick to our lanes then right now. Jay Bilas here on the Rich Eisen Show. Why are we, in your estimation, seeing more upsets than ever before? Third straight year, 11th time ever only, but third straight year, 15's popped off a 2. UMBC now has company with Fairleigh Dickinson as a 16 seed to knock off a 1. Why are we seeing that more recently, Jay? Do you think?
Well, we've only seen the 16 seed do it twice. One was 2018 when Virginia lost to UMBC, and Virginia was missing one of its best players, DeAndre Hunter, got injured right before that, and that was certainly a factor. I mean, they got beat by 20, so when it started going downhill on them, they didn't know how to get out of it. The Purdue one was inexplicable. I mean, Fairleigh Dickinson, you have to give them a lot of credit because they won. But you also have to place blame where it should be placed, and that's on Purdue. I mean, I don't think because there are a lot of people saying, wait a minute, Fairleigh Dickinson was a better team. No, they won on that day. You don't want to take that away from them. But come on. I mean, Fairleigh Dickinson was ranked 275th in the country in all the metrics, and that's after they jumped up by beating Purdue. And I don't even know where they were. They were around 300. And they were ranked 353rd in the country in adjusted defense. That was inexplicable. And I don't think anybody said after Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson that Buster Douglas is just the better fighter. No, you said, look, Mike Tyson was terrible. And that's what happened to Purdue. And it's 3 years in a row now for Purdue losing. They lost 3 years ago to a 14 seed, North Texas, lost last year to a 15 seed, St. Peter's, and this year to a 16 seed. And, right now, Purdue fans should be hoping they don't expand the field and get 17 seeds in there because that's hard to explain.
So you're saying it's just circumstances, Princeton beating Arizona and Purdue going down to Fairleigh Dickinson, and it's not, I guess, the proliferation of better talent across the country?
Yeah.
Jay?
Well, that may be part of it because Princeton has some really good shooters and they can spread you out a little bit. But what Arizona did, I mean, you could see it in the game. Arizona got scared, and they started playing not to lose instead of playing to win. And, when you go into those games, there's a reason that the records of these games are heavily toward the higher seed. Like what is the 15 seed won in history? Like 11 or 12 games. And those teams are better than the 16 seeds, substantially better. And so you're gonna face a team that can play, but you should still win those games. And there are too many games you're seeing, like Arizona. That was a close game, and Arizona just wilted. And Princeton played with nothing to lose. Now their next game, Princeton just spread out Missouri. They were just better than Missouri at playing their way. So Princeton's very good. But I don't think anybody putting money on Princeton to win the whole thing. Like, I don't think anybody's saying, hey, they're the best team. But man, they're really good. And it had to hurt people from Missouri that Ryan Langborg, who sounds just like Langmore from Ozark, the Langmores, stuck it to Missouri. That was poetic.
Mm. Look at you going Netflix on me. I didn't see that one coming, Jay.
I'm going below deck next. As soon as the tournament's over, I'm going to catch up on below deck.
Or Tiger King, huh? How about Princeton? There you go. How about that? Look at me making connections right there. I mean, what's the Princeton odds right now?
Princeton is 16th. They have the worst odds, 150-1, Jay.
Yeah, I mean, Princeton's good, and they've done a great job. But, it's kind of like at Wimbledon or something. If some tennis player ranked 100th in the world makes it through to the quarterfinals, nobody's saying, hey, they're just as good as Roger Federer. That's not the way this works, but it's somehow the way, like in this populist notion of the tournament, people like to say, hey, aha, they're just as good. They've done an amazing job, and Mitch Henderson's a great coach, and they play a difficult style to contend with in a one-game scenario. But I think it's going to be more when you have a week to prepare for it. I think it makes it more difficult for Princeton.
So with 2-1, Jay Bilas here on the Rich Eisen Show. With 2-1 seeds now gone, how does this open? Give me the team or the program that this opens things up for a better chance now to cut down nets. What do you think?
Well,
Jay?
Cut down nets. I mean, make it to the Final Four. So the East was turned upside down by both Marquette and Purdue losing in the first weekend. Marquette was probably the weakest of the two seeds. They're not a big team, and they're not a great rebounding team, and they turned the ball over against Michigan State. Usually they're the one with the positive turnover margin. I think they were +5 turnover margin, and they wound up flipping that with Michigan State. And Michigan State's not a turnover-forcing team, but Tom Izzo's done an amazing job with those guys. I think Tennessee and Kansas State, that opened up for them. And Tennessee is way more physical than Florida Atlantic. And that Kansas State-Michigan State game is going to be great. But Kansas State has a 1-2 punch with Marquise Noel, their little point guard, and then Keontae Johnson that's going to be difficult to contain. But Michigan State can shoot it from multiple positions. They can go small. They can play a little bit bigger. They're going to be a difficult challenge. But I think that region and then the South opened up completely for Alabama now. I thought they had a pretty good path before, but Arizona was the one team I thought could really give them a problem. Now it's a very, very easy path for them to take on San Diego State, who has a problem scoring, but they can really guard and they can make it a physical contest and slow it down. And then the winner of Creighton-Princeton, which I expect to be Creighton, but Princeton can, if they make 10 or 12 threes, they can certainly make that a problem for the Blue Jays.
In the UCLA-Gonzaga game now with Kansas out, the 2-3, that's fascinating to me, that one. How far of a run can the winner of that game go, do you think, in the 16th, Jay?
They can certainly go to the Final Four. I mean, UCLA before the tournament started, actually before the end of the regular season, was a favorite to win this thing. One of the probably half dozen favorites to win it. But then Jalen Clark got hurt. He's their best defender. He may be the country's best perimeter defender, their best transition player. Only he and Arizona's Azuolas Bilas scored. They were the two leading scorers in transition in the Pac-12 on the season. And he's a downhill driver that goes right into your chin every time he takes it up. But without him, they're not as good. Other guys have stepped forward, the quote-unquote role players that are in a role, but doesn't mean that's all they can do. Like Amari Bailey stepped forward and had done a good job, and Tiger Campbell scored more. But Gonzaga can really score. They're the probably the best offensive team in that region. It'll be interesting to see if they can rebound and defend with UCLA, but that'll be hopefully a high-scoring game, because you remember in the Final Four a couple of years ago, they played that game where Jalen Suggs hit that shot at the end, that half-court shot to win it in the bubble. It'd be nice to see a little bit more scoring in some of these games that have turned into slugfest. But I still think UConn is the best team in that region, and they're playing the best right now. But playing the best doesn't mean anything if you don't carry it forward into next week.
And in the Midwest, it's the only region in the bracket where the top three seeds survived, and Miami of Florida is the fifth seed that knocked off fourth seeded Indiana. So how do you see that one playing out, Jay?
Well, I think Houston and Texas are the two best teams. I would expect them both to advance, even though Miami's got so many shot makers. Isaiah Wong and Jordan Miller, Nigel Pack, those guys can really score, and they can create their own, which is unique. They're kind of like an NBA team in that regard. But the biggest factor is going to be their big guy, Norchad Omier, transferred in there from Arkansas State. He's a double-double guy and really formidable, even though he's only about 6'8". But if Houston's completely healthy, I think Houston can win that game because they're so good defensively and they're so good on the glass. They can cause a lot of problems for Miami. And then if Houston and Texas get through, it's basically offense against defense. Like Houston doesn't score as efficiently as Texas does, but they're better defensively and better on the glass. But I think that's got the makings. If the 1 and 2 get there, that's got the makings of the best regional final, I think.
A couple more minutes left here with Jay Bilas from ESPN on the Rich Eisen Show. Is Brandon Miller the best pro prospect left in the tournament? Would you peg him?
Yes.
Okay, that's a
yes. No question. No. I mean, he's 6'8". He can defend. He rebounds well. He gets his own misses a lot. Quick to the ball, and he can really shoot it. He's got deep range, a quick release, even though it's not a high release. He's the real deal. He's the best college player, and I think the best pro prospect. But they've got a bunch of pro prospects on that team. Alabama is uber talented. And it's almost like they've got two players at every position. They can bring Damari Burnett off the bench, and he can really defend. And Jaden Bradley, he was their starting point guard. Now Javon Quinterly started. They've got a lot of options. They play like an NBA team. They space the floor, kind of like the Houston Rockets did when James Harden was there, or the Milwaukee Bucks now. They're not hugging the three-point line. They're 5 feet beyond it, so they can step into a three. And if you don't guard the ball against them and they get penetration and force help, they're kicking it out to three-point shooters, and they can make 10 or 12 in a game. And Brandon Miller, I mean, he's had 40, 32. I think he had 36 against Gonzaga, had 41 against South Carolina. He hadn't even played his best in the tournament because of a groin injury, but they're the best team. Now, whether the best team wins this thing, it doesn't always happen that way. But they have the best balance of big-time offense, and they can really defend the rim.
So then let me flip the script here. Give me the best player in the tournament remaining that isn't a pro prospect, that is just going to finish up their career, whether it's this year or throughout. And I know that's saying somebody, quote-unquote, can't. But I guess give me somebody who's not on, if you will, the radar screen of professional basketball scouts. That's the best player left in this tournament that can flip things around. Jay? That's
a good question. It's probably Tyson Walker, I would say, from Michigan State. He transferred in from Northeastern, and he was an all defensive player at Northeastern. He's a really good defender, and he can really shoot it. And works really well off screens. He can play point. He's got really deep range, really good mid-range game. Michigan State's interesting this year. I mean, they've lost 12 games and they've had some ups and downs. And I was there when they played Indiana, and it was right after, Rich, that horrific shooting on campus that took the lives of 3 students and 5 others were injured and hospitalized. And I've never had a feeling like that. And Tom Izzo took on so much of that emotional, I don't even know what to call it, the emotional weight of that community. And I can't think of a better person to have handled all that. Like, Tom's one of the truly great, not only one of the great coaches, he's one of the truly great guys in the game. And I'm not surprised that he's having this kind of success with this team, but it's not one of his most talented. It's not one of his best rebounding teams. Their interior strength is not the same as it's been with some of his other Final Four teams. But there's something there with this group that they've battled through everything you can imagine on the adversity level. And Tom has done again. There's just not a better person in the game than Tom Izzo.
Well, I know obviously his best man at his wedding and vice versa, and Steve Mariucci, they're the same person. You know what I mean? As far as I'm concerned, and A+, and I last Big Ten team standing, man. Last Big Ten team standing, Michigan State. Who'd have thunk it? Unbelievable. Thanks for the call, Jay. Greatly appreciate it, man. As always.
Always a pleasure. I'm going to get back to Below Deck right now. I think Captain Sandy's about to
Below Deck. I didn't see that one coming.
Nope.
I didn't see it. You caught me with that one, but you always have me at hello as well. Jay, look for more of my calls. We'll chat again soon. Thanks again, sir.
Take care, brother.
Right back at you. That's Jay Bilas. At Jay Bilas, must follow. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.